If you're curious about how all of this romance and swinging from the chandeliers and all of that came to be, today I'm going to just be sharing like a story time. I said I was going to do it at the end of the week, but I've been MIA because I was at a writing retreat last week, which was much needed. But I was working on some projects and realized that there are parts of my story that I haven't shared and I needed to document it. So why not do it this way? So if you were curious about how I started doing what I do, then stick around. And even if you are someone that is a dreamer and you had this little bitty part of you that wanted to do X, Y, and Z, and you sort of thought, maybe that's not for me, I think this story would help you with that as well. And so, with that said, let's go ahead and get into it. Just in case you are new around these here parts, my name is Dana. I'm a USA Today bestselling author in both romance and paranormal romance. I am a developmental editor and I am the chief storyteller at Danger Tales, where we help romance and fantasy authors write addictive novels. And those are novels that readers can't help but to gobble up and share with their reading friends. But we want more than that for our authors. We also want them to build a fan base and also build a profitable publishing career. And so that's what we get to do every single day. So, with that said, how did this all start? I feel like I want to go way back, but I don't have no sound effects. So, I'm going to take you back to meet 16-year-old Dana. Now, if I tell y'all how many years ago that was, um, one day, I don't care about sharing my age, but we're going to go talk about it today. So I was 16 years old. I had my first car, and for some reason, I ended up in this bookstore. So I'm not sure if they still have it in Austin, but there was this small bookstore that was inside of an art. They did art framing and they sold black art, which was called Mitchie's. If you are from the Austin area and you've been to Mitchie's, wherever you are, drop a comment. Because Mitchie's, listen, I used to love Mitchie's. Mitchie's is also the first place that I did a book signing. So 16-year-old Dana goes into Mitchie's, find black art, and I don't know how I ended up in there. I had no reason to be there. Maybe I did go there to find a book. I don't know, and can't remember. But I go into the store, and I'm just walking around, and I'm looking, and Mitchie. And right now I'm saying her name is Mitchie, but it may not be Mitchie because I believe that it was named after her son. But the owner, one of the owners, she came over to me and she said, "Hey, very friendly. Are you looking for something in particular?" And I was like, "Well, no." And I'm going through the aisles, and she had a section that had black books, fiction, nonfiction. And so she said, "Do you mind if I make some recommendations?" And I said, "Oh no, sure, I'd love some." So she walks me over to this section that had indie African American books, and I want to say they were all fiction, but I could be wrong. But what she ended up sharing with me, and if I was to like go over here, I still have the book. Actually, I'm gonna grab it. Hold on. I know this is not the way you do these videos, but y'all know what? It is what it is. This is the book that she showed me to. This book is called The Price of Passion by Evelyn Palfrey. This cover has changed many times, and oh my gosh, it's signed. This wasn't the first time. She signed this after, okay, I totally forgot it was signed. Oh my gosh. So she shows me this book. She starts talking to me that this is a local Austin author, and that's probably what that space was for Austin or local, like Texas authors. She was a Austin author, and she told me about this book, and I read the back, and I was like, okay, so I bought it, and I bought this book. I read this book, and after I read this book, I still can't believe it's signed. I totally forgot about that. I loved it so much. And the reason why I loved the book so much and why the book changed my life is because the book featured a Black woman, and she is going to law school, and and she's going through this tough time. And if you haven't read this book, it is so good, and I feel like I want to read it again just because it's making me emotional. But the reason why it changed my life is because I could not recall ever seeing a book with people who looked like me. And as someone at the time, y'all, the way we would say it in a PC way is I lived in the inner city. Y'all, we lived in the hood, okay? We went from the projects to living in the hood. Listen, my mom had us a nice house once we got a little bit older, but at this time, like, y'all, you just did not see. I did not have access to where I would feel consider career Black women. And to me, when I started reading these books, it made my brain explode. And it wasn't about the romance. It was about representation and seeing something that I could be. And this was the first book that I read by Evelyn Palfrey. I read several others. But what happened is I started seeing Black women that were going RVing and going to other states to go to concerts and doing things. And I just loved her books so much that one day I wrote her a letter. Hard pause. This was pre-emails, okay? We had to write a good old paper and pen letter. And that is what this book says in here. It says, keep a letter. Keep a little passion in your life, Evelyn. But I wrote her a letter and she wrote me back. And when she wrote me back, she invited me to this book club. And the book club, I was so excited. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I get to go to this book club and see the author. So I drive across town. Listen, Austin is so different now. This was, just telling the truth, this is over 30 years ago. But I'm driving and I go to this place to be a part of this book club. And when I get there, all of the women there are, high earning, professional Black women sitting around at this book club. And here I am, this 16, 17-year-old who drove across town to these nice houses. And it was just, the whole thing just blew my brain. Like it just changed everything. So I sit in the book club. I'm talking about the book. I'm talking about the characters, interacting with these women. And little did I know that that would change my life forever. And this is why I tell people all the time, like, people think about romance in a sense of, the chandelier swinging and all the steamy bits and parts. But I always believe that romance and telling stories in fiction will give you access that nonfiction may never have. That you have this captive audience that are sucked into the story, but you are being exposed to good things. And it can be some bad things too. Like, we could just keep it 100, but you're being exposed to another world that you are either having this suspension of belief, or you're being dropped into a world that gives you possibility and it gives you hope. And for me, it gave me options. And so I don't know if I would have ever even thought that law school was possible for me. This woman was going to law school. I wouldn't have ever thought that law school was a possibility to me. I wouldn't have ever thought about the love and the relationships that they created. There were ones that were trauma based, and there were ones that were true love, that sacrificed, and that was enduring love, and that was wholehearted love, and that was love that accepted her unconditionally. And that's something that I experienced by reading this book. And what it did is just planted a seed that really came to full harvest many, many years later, that later I would eventually go to college as an adult I was married and I had kids and I was in college with 3 babies. Okay. And I go to law school, and I'm in law school, married, and married young and had my kids. But went from undergrad into law school, and I finished both in 5 years, working full time with 3 kids and married, and still being an active part of my children's life. And I just don't know if I would have even realized that that was a possibility for me if I wouldn't have picked up this book. So when I was at this book club meeting, this is where I first met Miss Evelyn. Miss Evelyn was a mentor to me for a long time. We would meet, we would go have lunch. We would, and every time I was in town, even when I was in law school, we would meet and go to lunch or brunch. And she was just an amazing woman. And she introduced me to one of my favorite authors, which I always say is my favorite author, which is Miss Beverly. And that I found out about her through Miss Evelyn. And those women changed my life. So that fast forward, how many years? I'd say maybe, y'all, this is not a strong suit, me remembering time. I would say probably 15 years later, maybe, ish. Ooh, 10, 20 years later. Was it 20 years later? The point is, I'm working at a law firm. I'm going to the law firm. Y'all, I hate it. Hate is a strong word, but I hate it. I hate it. I hate the suits. I hate the pantyhose. I hate going there. I hate the way that I feel there. I really, really hate the way I don't feel like I belong there. The only thing that I loved was the money. But if you know me, money is not a huge motivator for me. So one day I wake up and I say, I can't do this anymore. And I'm so blessed and thankful that I have an amazing husband. And he said, so what do you want to do? And y'all, I just was like, what do I want to do? And then he asked me, I don't know if he asked me or if I inserted, but the next question was, if you could do anything in the world, what would you want to do? And I was so happy. Y'all, I'm happy just thinking about the question. I was so happy because I was just like, if I could do anything, what would I do? And I didn't even have to think. I just wanted to be with books. That's all that I knew. I just wanted to be with books. Now I'm going to hard pause here because the whole time, from the time that I picked up this book to the point where today, I was reading today, I have always been the person since that moment that I read when I'm happy. I read when I'm sad. I read when I'm tired. I read when I need to unwind. I read. In law school, we had to read hundreds and hundreds of pages sometimes nights, over the course of weeks, I would still read novels because it was the way that I could decompress. And it just made me feel like all was right in the world. So even when I should have been studying, there are times where I was curled up on my couch reading a book. And it was so amazing because that's when my family would treat me like I was invisible. I would sit in the corner of the couch, I would read a book, and my husband would just keep bringing me either coffee or snacks and just let me finish the book. And when I finished the book, I'd feel like I could face the world again. And so when we get to this moment, when he's asking me, what do you want to do? And I just say, I want to do anything with books. And that started me on this journey. So it started with a book. So when people hear me and they always say, you sound so passionate. You sound like you really believe what you're saying. Y'all don't know what that means. I think people low key be thinking I'm lying. But if you know me, like really know me, you know, listen, I'm always with new books. I'm always trying to quilt something. I'm always making sure I'm doing my work and my hobbies and I'm about my family. Books are always going to be in there. I remember when we had to evacuate for Katrina, what was in the back of my Malibu? All of my signed Beverly Jenkins and Evelyn Palfrey and Brenda Jackson books was in the car when we left from having to evacuate for Katrina because I was not going to let my books get ruined. Y'all, we had pictures ruined. We had other stuff. I still have my books. And it has just been something that has been so instrumental. So I went from practicing law to, at the time, I was also doing contract work in our business, helping our clients with marketing. And I began to take that information that I learned where I was helping our clients with ad placement and getting spots and radio spots or commercial spots on radio, to utilizing that to start representing authors doing PR work. So I used to write press releases and get them into book signings, and then even doing as much as doing virtual book tours. And eventually I started doing editing. And then I eventually parlayed that even more to having Danger Tales. And telling the story now, like even doing the short version, honestly, in my heart does not do it justice because my heart is just fluttering and excited because really books did change my life. And over the years, my consumption of books, I just didn't realize that in the consumption of books that made me so happy and that allowed me to decompress, that my brain would begin to create frameworks and processes to help others write the books that I love to read. And then I would eventually, now that I have over 200 books across multiple pen names that I've stopped counting from there. I'm pretty sure I have more than that, that I now get to hopefully give readers that same experience and to help authors give readers that same experience through telling stories. So this makes me think, what did you want to be when you were younger, and when you thought about when you grow up, what you wanted to be? And I always think about when I was really, really young, there were two things that I wanted to be. One, I wanted to be a writer, even though I never said it that way, but I do remember. And I remember being told that you can't do that because you can't make money doing that. And so I said, well, then I will be a teacher. And now I am a teacher and I am a writer and I do make money at it. And so to think about how life really can present you with the things and the desires that you have in your heart, and it may be many, many years later, but all of those years in between were worth it. And it helped me to build and become the person that I am, become the writer that I am, become the teacher that I am, become the editor that I am. And it also expanded my capacity and my heart for what I get to do. And people always just, I think they think I'm an odd one, but I promise you, I might be a little bit odd, but I'm 100% me. Like, I love Jesus and I love romance novels, right? And listen, I have this new sweatshirt, like, I love Jesus and Jodeci. Like, I just get to bring all of the things that I love under the umbrella of something that really just started out as a question of, if you could do anything, what would you do? If you could do something every day, what would that be? And it turned into this. So that's all I have for you today. I hope that you've enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments, no matter where you see this, like, what was your dream? When was the first time that you interacted with your love of writing and telling stories in a capacity that made you say, I think I want to do that. I think I want to do that for a living. Let me know and I will interact with you wherever I find you. And for now, your girl is out. Have a fantastic evening and I will see you really, really soon. And as always, happy writing. Goodbye.